This is a 2021 Ford Bronco Badlands, and it's basically stock, and the owner's tired of it being stock. So we're gonna change up the entire look with the Attica 4x4 lineup. Now in today's video, we're gonna mainly focus on the front bumper and installing it, but we also have side steps, rear bumper, and a couple other smaller bits to transform the look of this thing. Now if you wanna check out the rest of the Attica videos, make sure to subscribe. But let's go ahead and jump into today's video. So like I said, we're starting off this series with the front bumper. We're gonna be checking this out and installing it today. This is the Attica 4x4 Terra series front bumper, and right off the bat, you can notice this thing is pretty beefy. We also have a winch mount location in the front and 2 recovery points on the front as well, so if you end up getting stuck on the trail, you should have no problem getting yourself out. On top of that, this bumper is going to be a lot shorter than the factory bumper, so that should be able to give you enough clearance if you wanna upgrade to a bigger wheel and tire combo. Also, something else that's going to be a lot different from the factory bumper, when this is mounted on the Bronco, it's going to sit up a lot higher, so then we should be able to get a lot more ground clearance for when we're going into the trails. We shouldn't get stuck on anything like that. Now, another thing I do want to mention that's pretty cool about these front bumpers is the fact that they are modular, so we can actually customize these a little bit. You can end up running the end caps or choosing not to run the end caps. Personally, I think without the end caps, the front end looks a little bit more aggressive, which I'm a pretty big fan of. Besides that, the bumper is made out of a 6-gauge steel, which means it should be pretty durable. If you end up hitting anything with it, it really should take a good amount of the damage. Also, something to point out, this entire kit, including the front bumper, is going to come in this powder-coated black finish, which is nice because it should be very durable. You know, if you end up brushing up against any branches, trees, anything like that, it should be very good against keeping scratches off of it and just damage overall in general. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm super excited to see what this thing looks like on our Bronco. So let's go ahead, rip the factory bumper off, and then start getting this new Attica front bumper on it. Before we jump into today's install, if you have any questions about the tools that we're using, check out cjponyparts.com/tools or click the link in the corner of the video for a free video and PDF file showing you what tools you should have and how to use them properly and safely. First thing we obviously have to do is take the front bumper off, and to do so, we're going to take these covers off to be able to access the bolts behind them. After you get the T40 out, there's going to be a bunch of push clips that you have to pull out next. With everything removed, we should be able to pop off this plastic cover. Before we remove these 3 bolts, just go ahead and repeat the exact same process for removing the cover on the other side. With both covers removed and we have access to the 3 bolts and recovery points, remove all 3 bolts, but be careful when doing so because the bumper is going to be very loose at this point. So if you have a set of extra hands, it'll definitely come in handy. As you can see, there's a wiring harness that connects to the front parking sensors. The connector is right under this front panel here. Just unclip it, and then you'll be able to remove the bumper. As you can see, I put the factory bumper on our table here, and that's because we actually have to take out this wiring harness. The really cool thing about the Attica front bumper is the fact that if your Bronco has all these parking sensors and whatnot, they actually have holes on the bumper to be able to put your parking sensors in so they're still usable. But the first thing we have to do is rip out the harness from the factory bumper. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll bring the Attica bumper up here and get everything installed again. With all of our panels disconnected, we can now remove the wiring harness from the factory bumper, and then we'll be able to transfer everything over. Okay, so we basically have the wiring harness out. The last thing that we need to do is remove the sensors. And to do that, you're simply just going to pull back on either side of the clip here, and that will release it, and then you'll be able to pull the sensor up. Pull back. Kind of got to do both sides at once, and then the sensor comes right on out, and do this for every single sensor. All right, so we got our Attica bumper on the table and the factory wiring harness from the factory bumper from the Ford Bronco. And at this point, we're just going to take this wiring harness, fish it through the Attica bumper, take all of our sensors and put them in the correct spot. Something to keep in mind here, you're gonna want this connector on the side of the bumper that has the Attica logo. It's now time to install the top bar here, so you're gonna grab some of the hardware in the kit. It'll simply just go on top of the bumper, just like this, and we will use all the hardware to be able to tighten it down to the bumper. So let's get after it. I'm just loosely installing these for right now, and then once we get the bar adjusted, we'll tighten them down. Once you have the bar exactly where you want it to be, just go ahead and tighten down the hardware you just loosely put in. It's now time to put the Attica 4x4 bumper on the Bronco, and at this point, if you can get a set of extra hands, definitely do so, because this bumper is no joke. It definitely weighs a lot. Now to mount this bumper, we're actually going to reuse the same 15mm bolts that we took out of the factory bumper. So I'm not gonna lie, this is my first time installing the Attica bumper onto the Bronco, and as I put it up there, I quickly realized we gotta move some stuff out of the way. Now the first thing we have to do is unclip this guard here. It's very simple, just pushing the clips up top, and it comes right out. And then after that, we're actually going to remove this cover. Also just held in by clips. And now with all of that out of the way, we can put our Attica bumper on the Bronco. Now to install the Attica bumper onto the Bronco, I'm going to reuse the 15mm bolts that we took out from the original factory bumper on the Bronco earlier. Now I'm not going to tighten these down all the way, I'm just going to snug them up a little bit so I can get the weight off my legs. For the third bolt, you actually have to reach behind the bumper here. I apologize, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get a camera angle of this, but when you're working on this, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. After you have the bumper installed, don't forget to connect the wiring harness back up so all of your sensors work on the bumper. Well, we're all wrapped up with the Attica 4x4 Terra series front bumper, and I gotta say, it looks pretty good on here. Now, I will say there is a couple of things that we can add onto this bumper to make it look even better, and that's why I said definitely subscribe so you can see all of our Attica videos, because we are gonna have end caps on here as well. Now, it also has a spot for the winch, so I know that looks a little weird right now with nothing there, but eventually we will have a winch for this bumper, and we'll have an install video on that as well too. Now, another thing that we are going to end up doing is getting rid of the factory skid plate to put an Attica one on there. But again, that's going to be in a future video. And if you want to see those, you just have to click subscribe and the bell button so you get all of our notifications. Now, it is time to drop a gear and disappear. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're looking for any of these Attica pieces, then I'll have them down in our description below.